Okay, guys, I was going to say welcome to the Sunday slot, but it's not a Sunday, it's a Thursday night. And we have got Fife Gingerbread. We've got Lindsay Proctor. She is the fundraising and PR coordinator, a bit of a mouthful, for Fife Gingerbread. And we'll bring her on now and we'll talk about it. Now, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask them in the comments and we will pick them up on the screen. Hi, Lindsay, how are you?
Hi, Jim. I'm fine. How are you doing?
Absolutely fantastic. I'm really looking forward to this. Fife Gingerbread has been an organisation, it's mentioned time and time again, all the time. Now, where did this all happen? How was this all created? Now, I'll tell you why I remember this. I remember that my friend, when I was maybe about 8 and 9 years old, his mum, I mean, that's a long time. That's 40. That's about 40 years ago. So 45 years ago. So that's about 45 years ago. His mother was actually involved with Fife Gingerbread. Wow. And I think it was as part of the Sailor's Rest in Methil.
There would have been parts, yeah.
There's a connection there. And so is that how long Fife Gingerbread's been going?
Well, we've been set up as a charity for over 30 years now, but it was originally like a playgroup. So down south, down in London, there was a lady who was a single mum and didn't feel comfortable in a lot of playgroups that were mostly just catered for families and people in good circumstances. And then this led off into different areas with playgroups, and there was Scotland and Edinburgh, and then Fife Gingerbread became a charity on its own, as I say, about 35 years ago now. And it just kind of grew from there. So kind of playgroup settings then into its own kind of space. And it's just really grown from there. So single parents are still, probably lone parents is still maybe our kind of key area that we try and work with, but we do work with families as well. And it's about giving families a brighter future, Jim. So people that perhaps are in circumstances where they need that extra support around their families, Fife Gingerbread's kind of grown from there. And now we're all across Fife now.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic. We're going to say a couple of hellos. Hello, Jonathan. How are you? Cheryl Brown, hi Cheryl, and Cheryl King. Got a few Cheryls.
Change my name.
So Fife Gingerbread been going 35 years as a charity now, and that then ties in perfectly with what I understood about the playgroup thing. Because I always remember it as being sort of that. And since then, how much has it grown? How big is Fife Gingerbread?
It's it's strange, Jim. It's grown to be a massive support network across Fife now. So the people that started up with it were really got to know the families really well, and then discovered there's other areas that maybe they need support in. A lot of it was if a family's circumstances have led them to somewhere it's quite difficult to get access to services and to feel part of a community. I think the workers then thought, there's need for this, and then started working with Fife Council. We were set up in an office in Leavenmouth. Rona Cunningham, which I suppose a lot of people still remember, lovely Rona. Rona kind of helped set it up, quite a bit, 20 odd years now, she would have been there. And it became something where we worked with the council, we worked with other charities, we started to get funding, and then that allowed us to have support workers in place that could help families. As I say, mostly based in the Leavenmouth area, but then we looked at Ballingry across to Dunfermline, Glenrothes, Kirkcaldy, and now we've got bases Cowdenbeath, Lochgelly. It's grown from there, and then we're in 4 kind of different projects we kind of support through. We use our work through these 4 different projects to support. I think it's at the moment sitting somewhere about 130 families in Fife.
Wow.
Yeah, so it really has, from a little playgroup to now giving families financial, mental health, kind of family support. It's really grown from something that was for parents with young children to meet up to now a big, large organisation with volunteers and trained support workers in place.
So where do you think you would want to go? Have you got plans for anything else for?
Well, the sad thing is, I think you speak to anybody that works with families in poverty, we don't really want to have a job. I know that sounds crazy, but the need is there. And I think we need to start the time. We've went through such a dramatic period in the last 2 years that I don't think any of us can not see that families are struggling and they do need the community back in their lives. They need to be part of something. So I can see us we're going to have to champion, I think, a bit more for people that perhaps change perception. So a big part of where we'll be going will be talking to people about poverty and what it's really like. What's on your neighbourhood, at your kids' school, what's life like for maybe some families that are there, changing perceptions and getting people involved and helping. There's a lot of work to be done about, I think, working with schools and bringing people on. So we'd like to think that a lot of secondary schools would have access if they had families that they think, they're not really coming to school very often, or there may be trouble at home, that they would have access to services too. Perhaps we used to work a lot with, they were teen parents, but young parents, still a big part of what we do, but not the only part. And there's still a lot of there where they don't get access to a lot of the services they need. So if there was, we can see the needs there, sadly, Jim. So we want to make sure that nobody ends up without a supportive organisation or somebody beside them. And Fife Gingerbread would like to think in the future that we would continue that support and also continue a lot more working with volunteers and different organisations to show them what an impact, not only donations, but volunteering and championing worthwhile causes like poverty in Fife, that we can make a large community. So I would love to see us as a real known part of the community to get people involved in helping families that are struggling.
Yeah, I mean, say a couple of hellos. Hi, Anne, how are you?
Hi.
And Cheryl actually said, I'm a student with Fife Gingerbread, and I'm so proud to see the amazing work they do firsthand. Great charity and great team.
We love Cheryl.
Yeah, I was waiting to say, I take it you know Cheryl.
Yeah, she's great. She works with us. She's brilliant. She's studying at the moment, and somebody that we're delighted that have taken such an interest in is somebody that she lives in the kind of rural East Nook area, and even there, again, hidden poverty, travel problems to get to travel. There's not a large supermarket, so there's things like that that perhaps are in the undercurrent of why poverty is so prevalent in certain areas in Fife. And how we can challenge that, why there's things that we should champion.
I would say it's everywhere. I mean, a classic example is you would never think it was St Andrews. And I've been up to see the Northeast Fife hub, and they were talking about that exact subject.
Yeah.
And I was gobsmacked. It's because you don't expect it in an area like that. But
No.
is it because people are forgotten about, or is it?
There is that. People, especially now, and not just the pandemic, but as things have gone on, things have moved online, you don't know your neighbour that well, you're not at the school gates as much, there's not a community, families move away, so it's quite easy to be hidden in plain sight, if you see what I mean. And it's things like, you may not notice in your own life if you've been lucky enough to not experience poverty, but if your rent goes up and your heating goes up and you've got to get a bus and there's no supermarket nearby, you're relying on a corner shop, you'll know the difference between a loaf of bread and a corner shop and one in Aldi. So it's people, you can manage on £40 a week, that's easy. You really can. If you've got a little baby, or you don't have a partner at that time, you're relying on the childcare costs are really expensive. Universal credit is there, but it doesn't cover emergencies like a broken oven or children jumping on the bed or illness back and forth costs on a bus to the hospital. There's lots of little things like that you would maybe think, I've seen them, they've got a mobile phone, so they must be doing okay. You need to have a mobile phone to access your any payments you get. That's a human right now, owning a mobile phone and having access to being online. So it's easily hidden, and we want to make sure that everybody's got the same chances. Their children have the same chances to excel at school. And that's not always the case. Children could be carers, nobody knows. There could be family upset at home. And it's very easy for that to kind of be something that you wouldn't see. So we're very much engaged with, like you say, there's other areas in St Andrews and stuff that their food bank and their clothing banks use quite a lot. But you wouldn't, as you say, you wouldn't necessarily think that would be a problem in those areas. Yeah.
Do you think education's a big thing to this?
I think so. What I've found, I mean, I've not come from a charity sector background, but from my thoughts when I was a teenager many decades ago, single parents, so they get this amount of money and they get this new house and they get, it's not the case, and it's not been like that for
No.
decades, but there's still that prevailing, I think,
Yeah.
that's slightly going, and that kind of the reality versus what people think came to the fore when the pandemic first hit. So women would go into supermarkets, and staff, and not staff just because they weren't aware, would say, right, you've got a child, you're not allowed children in the supermarket, you're not allowed children in the shops. So the child would have to wait outside. But if they're a lone parent and they have no support, then you have to take that child with you.
Yeah.
It's like certain things like Fife College have been wonderful now, but there was those instances before, like you couldn't access higher education if you had children because there was no childcare available at that time. If you were working part-time, how could your shifts work around your kids? And if they didn't work around your kids, you couldn't do the job. So there was parts of that things are maybe not accessible to lone parents as you might not realise. And again, with poverty, and you'll know as well, like housing costs and different costs for living on your own, and maybe small wage coming in, or one universal credit coming in with a child is very, very different from two wage earners in a home.
Yeah.
You know, and you're expected all to live at that same level. That's not always going to happen, you know, and there's going to be, and the stress of worrying about money constantly is incredibly harmful for mental health, and that affects children as well. Children are aware if mum's worried that, you know, I can't get the shopping in, or I've got to pay £12 for the bus to go back and forth to the hospital, and I can't afford that, but I need to go, and I've got this childcare and it's just available and I need to be there in 20 minutes. That stress builds and can make home life quite, you know, not a great place or a great mindset to be in. So it's all these little bits, you know. If, like I say, if something breaks at home, or if somebody jumps on a bed and it breaks, you don't immediately have that £100 crowd to go up to IKEA and get something, and you've got a car. If you don't have a car, that's not available to you. You know, those little bits and pieces. The big supermarket shops, sometimes you can get it delivered, but if you've got a lot of other things going on, you're not going to think about that. You're just going to nip to the corner shop, which in the long term is going to cost you more. So it's circumstantial things that happen to families can really affect the children and affect the parents as well. And there's things that we can change to make that better for parents, and we should want that for every child, every family in Fife. And hopefully we're starting to change some opinions about, you know, the situation that families find them in for, and help people realise that we all need to kind of understand and contribute to that kind of thinking.
It seems to be a compounding thing. And the way you talk about it is like it's not just one thing that causes that issue. It's a combination of events, but it's so small that most people, and the majority of people, will actually look at it and think to themselves, "Well, that's easy to solve." But they don't realise there effectively is there minority out there. It's forgotten. It has that difficulty in the fact that they can't solve all these issues all at once because they don't have the means, whether it's financially or whether it's, you know, any other way, to do that. And is that a fair assessment of what I see?
I think so. I think as well that we forget that a lot of people that find themselves in difficult circumstances have a huge amount to contribute and are just as capable. We have some girls that have got maybe 2 children that are under 21. They're very astute with their money. They know exactly what they're doing. They spend it very wisely. They budget really, really hard. They put their children first on every single occasion. And they try so hard, and they really do. There were some families that just I would find incredibly stressful. But if you put on a family breakdown and worry about money, that is, your head's full. It's very difficult to then step back and look to the future and what happens, you know, to see a way out of that. If you've got, I mean, gosh, when you've got toddlers or children anyway, they take up 80% of your time. So to clear that other space to think, right, this is the path I need to go down, and I would need to phone this person and sort this out and speak. That's a lot to do. So I think there's a little bit of, it can be overwhelming. And what we'd hope is if communities and volunteers and charities like ourselves and the cottage and lots of other places that do such great work, if they can just be there for somebody to lean on for a little while, we can help progress them and show them that, look, get through this, be confident in yourself, you've got a good future to look forward to. And Fife is such a brilliant place to live There's loads of opportunities to do things round and about, and great places. You don't have to go far to have a great day out with your kids. And it's just getting into that mindset that they have the right to do that. We had a family a couple of years ago that lived in Leven, and they came across to the Glenrothes Running Festival. And the girl, she was about in her 20s, and she was like, oh, I've never been to Glenrothes before, and this is brilliant. And,
Wow.
and I thought, my goodness, but you wouldn't necessarily think that. But if you had little children on and off a bus, do you know what I mean? And if you're doing part-time work, and it can be, you can kind of cut off experiences to yourselves without realizing they had the potential, to do all these different things. So, it can be overwhelming. But if they've been shown a little bit of responsibility and a lot of respect, then hopefully people can really realise that they've got the potential to do a lot more.
Yeah, we've got another couple of comments here. Cheryl's comments is the cost of access to services.
Yeah.
David, thanks for watching and commenting, David. He says, fantastic work. Laura's come in and said there's a lot of inequality facing lone parents. Scottish Government identified that lone parents are a high priority group as more likely to be experiencing child poverty.
Yes.
And then Cheryl's come back in and says definitely high childcare costs, low wages, insecure employment do not help in this situation.
Yeah. That's the thing. It can be like a combination of these factors, especially for lone parents. It's very difficult to get out of, and sometimes it feels like the setup, so to speak, that they're given is kind of everything becomes negative towards them. It's like trying to climb up a very, very steep hill with a very heavy backpack on you. You're told this is what you should be aiming for, but if you're then poved in with childcare costs, go to work, childcare costs, but then your income support will come down, and then your housing costs are going to be more, and then you've got fuel bills, and you don't know when that's going to work, and you've got zero in the contract. It's very difficult, and we know that the government are really keen, and the council are really keen to tackle this inequality with lone parents, but it's vital that they do it, and they do it soon. It's vital that it's not seen as a negative in any way. They need assisted help, and it's something that we're going to be campaigning very strongly about in 2022.
I think I first saw it when I was at college. When I went back as a mature student in my early 20s to study accountancy, and I was just, it was just Elaine and I at the time. We had no children. I couldn't get around my head how people couldn't study at night. And they kept saying that they were single parents, and they kept saying, but my kids, I have to make the tea, and I have to do this, and I have to wash and iron and all the rest of it. And I'm like, how's this no easy? I just had no comprehension at that time. And then it was only when I had children myself, and then it was when I became a private landlord, that's when my eyes were opened. And I was like, my God, it's like there's people struggling out there, literally having to choose between heating the house or eating.
Yeah.
And that cannot be right. And prices, energy prices are just going to go high as well.
And that lack of clarity too.
Yeah.
So our Christmas campaign, which you very kindly contributed to, Fife Properties, was actually called Heat and Eat. It's our annual Heat and Eat appeal, because we know that the problems, people say, oh, they can't, it's not going to be that expensive to buy food, and you can cook a meal for £3 if you start cooking it from like 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Well, you don't have that luxury if you've got children, you're on your own.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Think up things from scratch and boil that for so long. I mean, I'm not the greatest cook in the world as well, but I find that stressful, like getting my children ready for a meal. Never mind worrying about the cost of it. Never mind worrying about using the oven. If you have an oven, there's a couple of our families that are reliant on just a hob or just the microwave. Then the food costs are going up as well. And as I say, if you don't have access to a supermarket, it's much more difficult. Heating costs, now that's going to be for all of us. I don't think that's just people that are currently having money problems. It's going to be something that we're all going to worry about, that amplifies any kind of insecurity you've got financially hugely.
Yeah.
Because with the Heat and Eat campaign, we were speaking to one of our mums in Glenrothes, and in her home it costs £10 every 2 days to heat her home. Now, she's a baby and a 5-year-old, and you cannot, if you have a new baby, have a cold house. It's all right to put your dressing gown on if you're working from home and sort of heating off for a few hours, save a couple of quid. If you have young children, or any children that have asthma, or any kind of, at risk of being ill, you have to have a warm home, and you're entitled to have a warm home, and you're entitled to have it in good condition. So we know with that Heat and Eat money that everybody helped with, we knew coming into this year that we're going to have crisis calls from I don't have any money in my meter. I don't have,
Yeah.
I just don't have it. So hopefully for the families that we work with, we should be able to keep them out of that crisis area and keep their children warm.
Mm-hmm. So the Heat and Eat, was that the fund that we were just talking about just now?
Yeah. So Heat and Eat, we in October every year. I think I'm sure we won't be able to get that much, but
Is this the one
amazing
there?
that one there. Yeah,
33,143. That's a lot of money.
it
But I tell
is.
you what, that'll no last long.
No, well, that's
You
the
know,
thing, Jim. You're quite right. You're quite right. We were blown away. Last year I budgeted for 3,000 because of the pandemic,
yeah.
and we raised much more than that. And this year I was like, well, no, we're going to hit that. We'll go for 7 grand, 10 grand, and we've hit 33. And that is purely down to the wonderful response that we've had and how much people care about their local community. Blown away with the support. Absolutely cannot
But
thank
you're
anybody.
continually fundraising, aren't you? So you know,
Yeah.
where can people get access? I mean, I've put the Facebook page on here. I've put the website on here as well
Yeah.
on this post. So is there any donate buttons or donation pages for
Yes.
this? And
So if you go on our
this going?
website, there's a donation button. We have a Just Giving page as well. You can contact us directly. I'm always up for a chat, and we're really keen to kind of showcase our services and the wonderful work our support workers do. So yeah, there's any social media we've got. You can contact us by the telephone as well. But most importantly, probably go to our website or follow our Facebook page. We're on Twitter and Instagram and LinkedIn, all everywhere. So type in Fife Gingerbread to Google, and I'm sure if you want to help, you'll find your way to me somehow.
Yeah, and because you're a charity,
Yes.
any business out there is tax deductible.
Yes. Well, we do. We work with a lot of businesses, and we also work with a lot of charity groups or community groups as well. So Rotaries and stuff and that. They've been fantastic to us as well. But we must be touching something that people know how important it is that the families around them thrive as well and get the same opportunity. All we're asking for is a level playing field for everyone. And I think probably more than ever, we can all see that we all should have the access to, to have a good future, and especially for our children. And businesses, local businesses, if they get in touch with us, it's not only through fundraising or donating, which obviously is wonderful, and we would never not welcome that. But if they want to find out more about what we do, if they want to take part in any of we have tea time groups, we do holiday provision, we do days out for families. And if we've got any businesses out there that think, gosh, I'd like to know what's going on in our community, I'd like to know where we can help, maybe not so much plug gaps, but what could we do? Could we maybe mentor somebody? Could we maybe offer one of our expertise in an area that could help the charity? I'm very much interested.
Is this the weekly group thing then? The weekly need for do we need the volunteers? Is this what we're talking about? Yeah.
Yeah. So volunteers, we can do that people can do that as a staff, as a group. If there's a group of people that want to do it together, brilliant. And if there's individuals that want to follow, we've got some great volunteer coordinators that we can work with that can end up being befrienders. We can have people that, as I say, help with driving is always a great one. If there's anybody out there with a van or wants to help us move furniture or so on, be great. And it's lovely as well. You get to meet some great people and you really get a feel for your community. And we pride ourselves to making gingerbread like a family for everyone that's interested in what we do. And we're really keen to be there for Fife as well, to answer questions, to help people, to kind of embed ourselves in what people, and there's so many wonderful charities and community groups out there in Fife, and we would delight to be part of that, and delight to be part of Fife, really, the community. I couldn't imagine there'd be another region that could have so many different charities appealing at Christmas, and all of us have done pretty well, and that's down to people being generous. And
that's the people of Fife, though. That's just how the people of Fife are.
I am so proud to be a Fifer, I tell you. I wouldn't live anywhere else.
And also there's other things as well, as businesses have certain skill sets, or people out there have certain skill sets, you could use that as well. So it's not just about money. You're absolutely right. It's about the skill sets that you can do. I mean, we had talked about broadcasting and what we're doing here, and I'm quite happy to come in and teach you how to do this.
Yes.
So you can do it yourself, so it doesn't rely on anybody else doing it.
That's it. That's it, Jim. And be great, because what we want to do is we want any of the fundraising we get for Heat and Eat, 100% goes towards the families, 100% goes towards them. And during the year, that any money that comes in as well goes towards supporting families and also supporting the charity as a whole. And again, we may have skill gaps, and to set up the training, everything else might cost. But if somebody thinks, maybe if they're needing help with a removal van, we'll let them maybe say we've got a 1 day every 6 weeks that we can help. Or like you say, we've got some digital skills that could maybe help them out. We also rent out our office. Well, we will do when it's all safe to do so. We also rent office space as well, so meeting rooms and things. So not so much office space, meeting rooms, sorry. So if there's any local businesses that get their teams together monthly, every 2 months, we've got a room that we rent out. Again, that money goes straight back into the charity again. So yeah, any ideas. Love to hear ideas from people. It's going to be great to get back out there and actually meet people face to face again, Jim. But any ideas that people think, there's this that could help Gingerbread, if they thought about that, love to hear from everybody anyway, individuals, community groups, businesses, anybody that wants to kind of find out more about what we do.
One of the most important things I would think is for people actually to follow your Facebook page and actually engage with the Facebook page, because the more people engage with the Facebook posts and the more people comment on the Facebook posts, the better chance it is for the social reach that you get, the organic reach from everyone else actually seeing it. So you comment on something and all your friends see your comment on that page, and that then spreads a wider message. Now, yourself, if it goes from 1 to 2 to 4 to, if you doubled that up for the next 31 days, you'd be on 10 million.
Yeah.
And it's like, wait a minute, how did that happen? 31 days of doubling up, and it was 10 million, and that's how much it is.
It's crazy, isn't it? Because people think social media for charities and businesses is something that you put up a thing and then it's gone, but there's a lot of thought and a lot of space in that behind it. Cheryl helps us out a lot with, and the algorithms and how it works and the importance it really is, because I expect we've really kind of focused on that in the last year or so. And it's grown, and that's a lot of people come to us now, and I've seen you on Facebook, or I've seen this post, or do you know what I mean? LinkedIn's been good for that, and Twitter great for kind of us pushing some campaigns with Poverty Alliance and Joseph Rowntree Foundation. A lot of people can kind of get behind your messaging just from knowing you on Facebook, and they feel like they know you as well. So this year we're really going to be focusing on engaging topics. Again, if there's something somebody wants to find out about what we do, love to hear from them. Love to find out what, I'm not sure about, what does Fife Gingerbread do in Dunfermline? What do they do in Glenrothes? How do they work in Kirkcaldy? Always keen to answer any questions.
Yeah. A couple other comments. You've got Cheryl's actually said the donate button. Thanks, Cheryl, for doing that. Cheryl Brown has actually said, it is a choice of having the heating or the eating, and it's a climate injustice, really. Paul has actually commented, thanks for taking the time to help others. And we've also got Kilt Walk.
Yes, Kilt Walk's coming up this year. Well done, Cheryl. So we've got I don't know if you've ever done a Kilt Walk before. Jim, have you done the
I did a kilt. What I did was, I didn't do a kilt walk, but I did the Queensferry Crossing.
Oh yeah.
So I got the opportunity to do that, so I stuck my kilt on and I actually just raised money for a charity. I think it's Make a Wish, because I'm a volunteer for Make a Wish Foundation.
Oh, brilliant! Wonderful charity there. Brilliant charity. So the Kilt Walk, you can do it virtually, so you can do it from your house, you can do it where you choose, or there's ones in Dundee and Edinburgh, and get a group of people together. You go on the page, normally, fingers crossed, I'm sure you'll do it this year, Return Farmer gives you an extra 50% of what you raise that goes to the charity as well, which is brilliant. And we've done it the last 2 years, kind of quite quietly, but it's been great fun. And then people then can sponsor you on the page. So that's something that we're highlighting coming forward. I had a chat with one of the girls in the team today, Sandy, and we're very excited about doing it. We're going to do a bit of Fife Coastal route, I think.
Oh, wow. Fife Coastal route's beautiful.
Isn't it lovely?
It's it's a classic example, exactly what you said. I've never been to Glenrothes. And years pass, and I've never really been on the Fife Coastal Path. And it was only when I took up running and triathlon that I started to say, where could I run? I tell you what, I'll just run along the beach. I didn't know it was a Fife Coastal Path, and then I was running along to Anstruther and St Monans and Ely and over the hill and everything. I went, wow, what is this? And then I started to see all the signs saying Fife Coastal Path, and I investigated even more. And then I realised it went from Kincardine all the way around to Newborough. And it just blew me away when I started to look at it all.
Even the park with Newborough again, like in St Morans, that's one bit. You park one bit and park one bit and take the kids to the beach, but the actual paths in between are stunning. So if there's anybody that thinks, I'm keen to do that this summer, do it for Kilt Walk. Well, hopefully you'll get 50% on top of what you raise, and you can really help us and help families in Fife. So we will be banging the drum about Kilt Walk. The only thing is I don't think we've got our big gingy mascot, so it'll be names out of a hat to see who's wearing him for 12 miles. But I'll put that down for Cheryl, because I'm sure she'll be happy to do that. So
it's and Cheryl says we'll be sharing how to sign up to do the Kilt Walk and eat our Fife Gingerbread in the coming weeks on our social media channel. That's why it's important to actually follow the page.
So I'm sure, Jim, if you've got lots and lots of connections in yourself, and that is a great way to walk somewhere, raise money, and as I say, it's great fun. It's really, really good fun.
Yeah. What other ways is there, anybody can be involved? I mean, we've discussed quite a bit on that, but is there any other ways that people can be involved?
Well, if there's something that people feel that they would like to do, we have an allotment in Kelty, and we always need help with that. So if there's anybody that has an interest in gardening and wants to do that, be great. Sometimes we've got decorating areas, fundraising. So obviously with things, we can't do backpacking at the moment, which we'll be able to do for 2 years. We can't go shaking cans really. So hopefully when we all open up, we can all physically see people again. We'd love to kind of get a community of people that would enjoy fundraising, have lots of fun with their friends. It doesn't have to be something separate from that, and do it in aid of Fife Gingerbread. So love that. And people that want to just really volunteer with us or see how they can help families in Fife. There's different options there, and obviously just sharing our social media posts as well and commenting on them as well helps them spread out a bit more.
Well, here's Cheryl coming and says, "What about a wild swim, Jim?"
There you go.
I did the New Year's Duke, and I went round 4 of them.
Did you?
On New Year's Day. I started up at St Andrews, and I only got up at 9 o'clock in the morning, and I thought I've missed St Andrews, and then I went, it's on at 10, and I thought I'm going to go over. So I went over to St Andrews, and I thought, St Morans is on at 11. I may as well just go over. So I went to St Morans at the same time at 11, and then I was going to do Anstruther at 12 because it's Cellardyke Tidal Pool, and I'm involved with that. And they were doing it on the beach. And then I realised somebody said, Pitt and Ween's on at 11:30. So I did them in between. And I tell you what, hypothermia. I started to shake and everything. I didn't realise. I just thought this sounded like a great idea. I tend to jump in and then not realise what I've done.
Look at the end of it.
It's a bit weird. So Cheryl
Are your feet warm now? Are your feet warmed up now? Because my dad did it at South Queensferry. South Queensferry years ago now, and it took till the evening for his feet to come to get feeling back on his toes again.
Cheryl King's actually volunteered you to join me.
I'll hold the life raft at the side, Jim. But do you know what? See if there's a bunch of people that want to do that kind of thing. Brilliant. As long as they've signed their health and safety and they've got something cozy on. Things like that. People want to do something and they think, I'd like to do that for local cause. And get in touch. We've got big Gingy, our gingerbread man, and a really lovely community around us that really that care about our families, and our support workers work so hard and they're so dedicated that we once people get involved with us, they normally kind of stay with us, which is brilliant. So it's a lovely community about us, and once you get to meet the support workers and once you get a view on what we did, as I say, to go back to that 10K that we did, we had these young girls got to do the toddler walk, the toddler run with their kids, and they loved it. And somebody came up at the end and they were like, do you know what, just seeing those little ones, didn't know that they were getting support or anything else, just seeing that's really made my day. And then, do you know what I mean, £100 in the box, and they were like, I wouldn't have realised what you did or the impact of somebody caring about somebody and showing them the respect that they deserve and giving them a chance to do things. Once we bring that to the fore of Fife Gingerbread, I think people are they stay with us, Jim. So you have to stay with us.
So I take it this is Gingy we're looking at.
Yes, that's Gingy. What an attractive chap. I was out, I won't give the game away, but there was one instance where we had to go get loads of photos of where can we show where he is. So I went around all the road signs coming into Leaving, Methyl Hill, Ballingray, everywhere. And you could just see these people driving past going, what is going on? But yeah, it's good fun. Every time we take him out, we get a great laugh with him. And fingers crossed now that perhaps this summer we'll be able to meet a lot more people, and we'll be able to bring him into businesses and community groups and stuff as
So
well.
you've probably got one of the best jobs in the world, because, you know, the theory is, you know, the more you help other people, the more you feel better yourself.
I'm in personal position. I'm very, very lucky that I get to see, and they'll hate me for saying it, but the volunteers and the staff and everything are pretty much inspirational, because they deal with things in their own lives as well as everybody else does, and they're caring for people, and the joy they get when they can see these families progress, and the amount of strength they give these families is fantastic. And I'm just very privileged that I get to be a small part of that and bring people into it. Yeah, there is nothing better when somebody puts, oh, somebody's got a job, yay, or do you know what I mean, or baby's well, or it's just done really well, or they've got a place in college. It's lovely to just be a little tiny part of that. It's worth it. And to know, with the Christmas appeal that some people donated to know that a family that had been through quite stressful or quite a chaotic time, to know that their kids are going to wake up, they're going to open something, heating's going to be on, there's food in the cupboard. You can think, right, okay, it's been a bit stressful over Christmas, but I know that little soul's going to be okay that day. And everybody laughs at me because I just get stupidly emotional about things, but it really is that bit of importance. You don't have to make a big song and dance about it. It's just to know you've done something. Somebody's going to be okay. Somebody's, for that week or whatever, somebody's going to be okay. Or somebody's put a bit of faith into that girl. You know, she's maybe been on her own. She's maybe isolated. It's tough bringing up children for anybody, but somebody believes in her and is putting her forward for college courses, and is taking her. She's went to her first. We've tried some families. It's very hard to get involved and get them out of their shell, and then they'll phone up and say, yeah, I really enjoyed that baby class or dance class. I'm going to come back next week. And that's a massive step forward for people. And that's what we want. That's lovely to see that progression. And if we can be just a little part of that, then it makes it all worthwhile.
Yeah. But then you say emotional, but I say passion. It's really, that's what drives it.
They all laugh. I cry at everything.
But that's passion. Yeah. That's what that is effectively. It's the reason that you're doing that is because you're so passionate about what you do.
When we were in the office, I would be on the phone to people and asking for money, and somebody would come in and it'd be hard slog, and then somebody would come in and say that's the first time they went to baby massage, or she had a great time, or I went to the house and the health visitor says baby's well now, or do you know what I mean? Or like I say, they've got a college course, or somebody's got a part-time job which fits in with their life, and even that makes it go. It is totally. We're so lucky to have such wonderful staff and the families that engage with us. And when they finally do, we don't ever push. Some people will find it incredibly difficult to join a toddler group, or incredibly difficult to go to a dad's group. And after time, we don't push, but when they are ready, we're ready with them. And then we just stand at their side, and then take a step back and let them go, and they can progress. And you could be from any background, any walk of life, but just that little push when you're ready, we just want to be there for you to just make the most of, you know what I mean, you know, what you can do. And those vital years when your children are younger and beginning the high school, or any of those kind of vital points, if we can make that transition or that time of your life that little bit smoother, and be there to kind of help you figure out benefits, help you figure out, you know, if there's any support for your mental health, or if we can kind of make that a bit smoother for you, then that's what we want to do and let you flourish, which a lot of our parents do. Yeah.
It is a minefield for someone that doesn't know what to do, isn't it? It's and you touched on that point about benefits and how to get that. But I tell you what, just one look at all these forms in front of you, and now having to use a computer online and stuff like that, it's just sometimes when you're not in that privileged position, you've not had a really good education, then you're more or less goosed before you start.
Yeah. Well, it's you've got to have access to a phone, you've got to have Wi-Fi, and you need to do all these things online to claim, like if you're looking for work, and the childcare amount, and you've got to show this amount. One of the things that one of the girls was speaking to me about is with the delay in things with COVID, is birth certificates are not getting issued for a certain time. So that means child benefits lost, which to some people might be a bit of an inconvenience, but to some people it's a massive amount of money, you know, to support them through those early months. And we can't do that to families. We need to make it easier. Nobody is coming out on universal credit, waving money about and taking holidays to Cuba. It's not like that at all. It's not like that at all. It is difficult. And like you say, there's so many perhaps benefits around, but the system sometimes isn't as smooth as it should be. So if you're left to do that on your own and you're 17 and you're living on your own and you've got a baby, where do you start? I wouldn't know. And it can be overwhelming, so people don't do anything about it. So maybe when they'll speak to one of their support workers, they'll go, look, you know, you're entitled to a welfare fund or a white goods fund, and they might have not realised that, you know. And if we are invited into somebody's home that we're working with, we can say, look, you know, you're eligible for help for, you know, home furnishings or this and that. So it's not always easy to access these services, like Cheryl said. So sometimes it's being there to show that way. And I think, and like I say, anybody, regardless of their education or anything at all, could find themselves in those situations quite easily as well. Yeah, totally better tomorrow, sure. And we're doing it. It's just the need's always going to be there, sadly, well, for the foreseeable future. And we will be there for people in Fife as much as we can.
Yeah, so Cheryl says, such amazing inspirational stories, activities happen with Fife Gingerbread AGM in October, like no other AGM you've ever attended. That's intriguing.
You have to come, Jim.
That's got me thinking. It's like, what goes on there?
I'm just sitting in the corner crying. We pass a platform over to a lot of our families, and they kind of we have a little award. It's not so much an awards thing; it's a recognition of some of the great progresses that our families and our volunteers have went through. And big Heather, it's, I don't know. I just hope people can see that we're integral to, I think, a lot of families, and we're delighted to be like that. And we're so privileged that families allow us to help them. And we feel it's a privilege to be part of their family and see their children growing up and moving them on and seeing them happy. Nothing better. We get a phone call 5 years down the line, or 10, 15, or like you say with your friends, 20 years down the line, my mum used Fife Gingerbread, or do you know what I mean? I know somebody that used Fife Gingerbread. Can I volunteer? Or you meet somebody, you've got a badge on, and like, oh, you helped me back then. It's just
how does somebody start getting help? Because you know what it's like. I mean, I couldn't imagine for 1 minute, but if I go back to early 20s, I was homeless and unemployed at some point, with no skills and no education. So I understand, and it's like, it's the embarrassment. I felt the embarrassment for myself, and the fact that I'm in this position and I didn't want to tell anyone.
No.
As you know, how would anybody be able to go about? What should they do?
Well, people can be referred to us. So if there's health workers or teachers or even neighbours or friends or family feel that they know somebody that needs help, they can come to us with that person's permission, or people can phone us. We have a helpline, the lone parent helpline. It's really an advice line, but we man that, and that telephone number is 01592 725 210. So office hours, I think it's Saturdays and Fridays. People can phone up and say, look, I'm struggling a little bit. Can you help me? And we get, over Christmas, obviously the calls go way up, but I feel sadly that we're going to have more calls coming up with any fuel crises. You can't imagine how much an impact of something like even £30 that you're going to have to spend on fuel a month. And my worry is that families will try and save and not look for that extra help, and to turn their heating off too early in the year, bronchiolitis, children's getting lung infections. And that's personally, and I think for our work as well, that's our worry, is that they'll try and budget at the expense of their own well-being. So you can phone the Lone Parent Helpline, contact us through Facebook Messenger or just social media as a whole, and somebody will get back to you. We'll take your referral, and you'll then that referral will go to a support worker within that area if they're suitable for us. Our projects, we've got an early years collective. We've got making it work for lone parents, making it work for families. If somebody comes to us and we don't have the right support for them, we will be able to link them up with other services in their area that will help them. So even if they're not sure if we're the right charity for them, we will be able to help them access what they need to get to.
And that's key. We do a similar thing. So we know the certain stakeholders that we work with as a result with what we do. So we know somebody needs help in a certain area. We know where to refer them to in order to get that. So it's essential that anybody out there realizes that even if Fife Gingerbread doesn't know the answer, they'll know someone that does.
Yeah, there's people. Citizens Advice in Fife, and we work with lots of Fife Voluntary Action. They've got a great website as well. One of us will be able to help in a circumstance or point them to the right direction. And there are wonderful. We've got wonderful support out there from different charities. We work well together. Homestart, lots of different places. The Cottage in Kirkcaldy do amazing work. There's the People's Pantry and Leaving. There's lots of wonderful services out there. And the people that sometimes it's just that making that first call to one service can lead you to help. As I say, we do take referrals from other people, but they need to have the consent of the family that they're calling for. Yeah. So if they're not sure about phoning, we can say, do you want me to start the conversation? We can do that as well.
Yeah.
As I say, it's a job that we'd all like to not have to. To be honest, it's something that an organisation that we ideally wouldn't want to be there because people wouldn't feel so isolated. But I'm very privileged to work for such
good. So you talked earlier on when we were off air about 3 other projects that you've got underneath and what you do. Do you want to elaborate a bit on that?
Yeah. So we've got our Making It Work project. So Making It Work for lone parents is for, kind of says what it is on the tin. That's in a few areas in Fife, and that's for people that perhaps children a little bit older, don't have to be children a little bit older, and they want to get back into work. But again, childcare issues, confidence. We do confidence classes, which are fantastic for some women, working out, getting ability to interview practice and get back into work, what's available to them, travel. Sometimes we've got people that are so really keen to get back into work that they're traveling, 2 or 3 buses to get into a job. So we just try and make sure that they're getting everything they should be claiming for, and they've got a clean passage into work and they enjoy it and the employer engages with them. So we're really keen to speak to more employers about how maybe lone parents are a fantastic untapped workforce in some areas. How do you engage that? How do you think, they don't have anybody else pick those kids up after school? Do you understand if they need to travel back and forth, they might need their hours changed? Something as small as they'll need to keep the phone on them because the child's got health issues. Little tiny, they don't seem important, but really can. And again, that makes the playing field fair for everyone. Making it work for families. It's normally for children that are in sort of schools in Fife and S1 and S2. We can kind of help that family get a routine, so it's easier for them to get back into a job, and it's easy, the children and the parents can work to a better routine that helps them. And Early Years Collective is for children under 8, families children under 8, different areas and circumstances. There's lots of different elements to those projects, and also we've got our volunteering arm as well. There's different aspects to those projects. So some families will fit in one group and maybe not the other, or their needs, what they want to end up doing, or where they see the future will fit into one. And then we have, as I say, we've got support workers within those teams doing a great job of making people blossom.
Brilliant. We've got a couple of comments here. Phil's actually said, great organisation. Thanks for watching, Phil. Thank you very much. Cheryl, again, great organisation, strong networks, amazing. Cheryl's obviously
Cheryl's brilliant.
We should have got Cheryl on as well.
No,
Cheryl, where are you?
I know, your friend would be in a better shape than mine, Cheryl, I tell you. Cheryl's brilliant. As I say, she's a student and is working with us at the moment, and she's just a lot of passionate about her and experience of things that have really kind of helped us kind of realise what issues, especially with transport, how people think, oh, get on the bus. But if you've not got on the bus for 3 years, you would be absolutely shocked at how expensive it is. It's very, very expensive. And that is, again, a hindrance if you're working 4 hours a week and you're spending 30% of that on a journey. Is that worth it? Do you know?
Possibly even more. It's it's like you're basically a couple of hours a day, and you've got to get on a bus to get there and get on a bus to get back, and it's like by the time you work it out, it doesn't even make sense.
Cowdenbeath to Kirkcaldy, for example, is heck of a journey on a bus wherever you've got to go, and the cost of it and the times. And if you live at the back of Cowdenbeath and you've got to get to the bus station at the bottom, that's a massive amount of times. And we do have, with one parent who's travelling from Glenrothes to where was she going, Lochgelly on a bus, but it took 2 buses. And it took her 3 hours to get to work in the morning. So she was leaving at 7 with 2 children going to a breakfast club. Now, you can't tell me a lot of people would make those sacrifices to do that, to feel like she had to do that. Do you know what I mean? Because she felt, no, that's not, you should have better options than that. You know, you should have the allocation that you can not have to travel that much from home. But that's where she could only find a job that would do in school hours, but then still had to pay either side because her travel didn't fit in with the school hours. So it's all these different elements of stuff that that can kind of impact that. So so we're anybody that's, you know, that wants to get their family situation right and get themselves back to work and progress, even if they're not at that stage yet, if they just don't know what to do, we won't push anyone to do things that they're not ready to do. It's all about following their lead and making life more bearable and looking for a bright future, really.
Brilliant. That's fantastic. And thanks very much for coming on the show.
That's all right.
Really
I told you I could talk to him.
Yeah, it's like fantastic. I could have just gone away for a wee while.
We could just do this every week, couldn't we? It gets me out of doing the dishes, so this time's perfect.
But the thing is, I've learned a lot more about Fife Gingerbread, and that's, you know, for me, that's a big thing. I never ever knew really what it was. I just expected it's a lone parent thing, and that's it.
Yeah.
And you don't really know what goes on in the background and how it helps a whole lot of other people. And how other people out there can actually help other people as well. And it is literally many hands make light work. And volunteers would actually be a huge resource to pull on in order to achieve that.
That's it. You've got a great network, Jim, and it's fun, and you get out of it, and you're contributing to families that are on your doorstep, to children that go to school that your children or grandchildren or friends' children go to. Just giving them that chance to lower that stress level, to make it fair, to make life more comfortable so they can progress. And we can all do that. Anybody can help with that, whether fundraising, offering skills, all that kind of things. Anybody can, if they want to, can come and get involved with us. And as I say, I didn't pay anybody to say those comments, Jim, but we are. we really do feel like we're a little community and a little family, and we're always delighted to hear from people too.
Perfect. And we'll just finish off with a couple of comments. Laura actually says, love to listen to the conversation. Well done. Thank you, Jim, for facilitating the chat. Anytime, Laura. I love doing this.
If you want an update about what we do, more than happy.
Absolutely. And Cheryl, thanks so much for both brilliant viewing. Thank you for support, Jim. You're welcome. It's like it's a privilege when actually somebody comes on and actually agrees to speak to me about this, because I often feel that a lot of people, it's just me. I just want to know for myself, and I kind of think the reason I do that is because I kind of think most other people would want to know as well. And I thought, well, why not just do this?
I was thinking about it, Jim, because I was thinking we all listen to podcasts and all stuff for news and that. What about things that are happening around us, like local charities and local businesses? Like you can go past a sign and what do they do? Do you know what's going on behind there? So
that's why I do this. That's exactly why I do that.
There you go.
Because I'm that person that walks past all these things and I wonder what they do.
So now we've got you doing the kilt walk, Jim, and wild water swimming, and you can dress up as Gingy.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for coming on the show, Lindsay. And thanks for everybody else for commenting. If you get a chance, please feel free to share this post. Share it on your social media. Please like it. Please comment. And if you're watching the rerun, comment as well. If you're on the podcast, please share it with your friends as well on the podcast, because this will come out just now on a podcast as well. If it's on Instagram, tag everybody in it as well. And Twitter as well. So please feel free to do that. And until next time, guys, I'm Jim Parker for Fife Properties TV. Bye-bye for now.
Bye.